Hey guys, Mike again with another profile, and today we're going to be covering my favorite format and my favorite deck in Yu-Gi-Oh, which is GOAT, and we're still on Skilled Chaos. Question of the day. I know we've asked before, but there's enough new people around. What's your favorite fusion monster? So for me, it's probably Thousand Eyes. Thousand Eyes is a big reason why I play this deck, and the whole point of this deck, beyond, turboing out Blackluster Soldier, is to get to your Thousand Eyes as fast as possible. And since we haven't done this profile in a while, when we get to the end, I'll cover my extra deck too. At least, the main things you want to have. For those of you that don't know, GOAT does not have a limit on the extra deck, so I have 40 cards. You do not need this. I think it's fun to have this many, and it's a neat thing to kind of collect to add things to your extra deck, but you don't need that. So we'll cover the things that you actually need, and let's get into it. So to start, Chaos Monsters. 1 Blackluster Soldier, 2 Chaos Sorcerer. You don't really need more than 2, unless you're playing something like Turbo. It's a lot harder to get into the 3rd Chaos Sorcerer, so you're good with the 1-2 split. And then, my deck is called Skilled Chaos, although I guess, from what Jay has told me from looking at things online, surprisingly, GOAT Control, I guess, has moved off of Air Knight. So my deck resembles GOAT Control in a lot of ways, but the way that it's different is normal GOAT Control doesn't play the skilled monsters. So, Skilled White Magician and Skilled Dark Magician, their text boxes don't matter. They're effectively vanillas, but why you play them is they have really good stats for light and dark. And if you look at the other Chaos lists, besides BLS and Chaos Sorcerer, there's not really anything that can beat over these monsters. Even if they get flipped by Tsukuyomi, they have really high defense, Skilled Dark being 17 and Skilled White being 19. So they're really hard to actually deal with in combat, and from playing the deck a lot, I mean, just the normal set 1 and normal summon a Skilled White Magician can actually get you fairly far. Okay, and now we're going on to the Singletons, probably my favorite card in the entire deck, Tsukuyomi. This thing is a powerhouse. I can't believe I played this deck without this initially. Suk locking your opponent, where they just keep normal summoning, but anything that you flip with Tsukuyomi's effect can be killed by Tsukuyomi, is just super powerful. Plus she gets you extra value out of your flip monsters, in addition to dealing with your opponent's monsters and turning on Nobleman of Crossout. I love it in game 1 when I'll have a Nobleman of Crossout and a Tsukuyomi against Warrior, since you can just Suk, flip your target, and then your knock that normally has next to no value is all of a sudden gaining a bunch of value. Pardon the crying if you can hear that. Ruben's daughter's having a day. Alright, I think she's good for now, so we'll continue. Alright, the other Singletons. Breaker, pretty standard. He's amazing. Pops your spell and traps. Has a really good attack stat. Awesome. Tribe. You can side deck Tribe instead of main decking Tribe. Since I'm trying to play the more mid-rangey version of Chaos with the Skilled White Magician and that kind of stuff, I like having Tribe. He's a very good, just generic answer to a lot of problematic creatures, and he pairs really well with Sinister Serpent. Serpent just coming back to your hand, awesome. I love Serpent. And then to round out the Singletons, Sengen. Pretty standard. Sengen gets you a lot of really nice bullets. For instance, he can get you Suk or Sinister, which is, besides the flip effects we're going to go over soon, these are your most common picks. And actually, I think if I really think about it, when I am searching with Sengen, Tsukuyomi is normally what I'm going for. Alright, flip effects, double Magician of Faith, double Gravekeeper Spy, and then Magical Merchant, and 1 Dark Mimic level 1. Dark Mimic is fine. I mostly play him because he's a Dark level 1 that draws a card. So you can play things like Daikochi, but I play Dark Mimic because with my 3 Metamorphosis, it's a very nice Thousand Eyes target. So that's the real reason why we're running him. Magical Merchant, throwing cards into your graveyard is amazing. He can quite often make 1 or 2 Chaos Monsters off of his flip by himself. And then 2 Magician of Faith, not a whole lot you need to say about Magician, she's insane. And Gravekeeper Spy. Warrior doesn't really have a way to crash over this card. So when you get one down, especially if you end up ramping into another one on the effect, they're just hard to get rid of. It's really just the Sasuke or the Mystic Swordsman effects, or, you know, burning something like a Chaos Monster effect that gets rid of them. Alright, now we're into the traps. A lot of singletons. Mirror Force, Torrential Tribute, Call of the Haunted, Ring of Destruction, and then to round them out, 2 Regeki Breaks. Not a whole lot to go over here. These are just really, really strong cards. Probably the weakest one, surprisingly, is Call of the Haunted. I end up boarding this out in a lot of Chaos matchups just because they end up banishing your really strong permanents anyway. Wow, permanents, that's a magic term. Your strong creatures anyway. And Call of the Haunted cannot get fusions that you put into play with Metamorphosis because they weren't summoned properly. So this is really just for buying back Chaos Monsters or something like Sengen. Alright, and now on to spells. Singletons first. Pot of Greed, Graceful Charity, Delinquent Duo, Heavy Storm, Snatch Steal, MST, and Upstart Goblin. And then to round out the spells, 3 Meta, 2 Noblemen, 2 Book of Moon, and 2 Scapegoat. What to talk about here? A lot of these singletons are just card draw. Incredibly powerful card draw. I like Upstart, that's why I'm running it, but with these, you're pretty good anyway. And then your random power cards, Duo and Snatch Steal, there's not a whole lot to say about them. And then Heavy Storm and MST, your back row removal, all of which are limited. 3 metas, because as I was saying before, we are trying to cast Thousand Eyes Restrict as quick as we can. 2 Knock, it's just a powerhouse, especially with Tsukuyomi and the double Book of Moons. And then 2 Scapegoat. Alright, and then we can go over my sideboard. It hasn't changed much, because, you know, Goat doesn't change that much. But we can at least go over what I have, since we haven't covered this deck in a little while. So, we're on 1 Jinzo, and kind of in the same vein, 3 Royal Decree. These are your I don't want to deal with Warriors cards. Just stopping their nasty traps. Oftentimes when I bring these in, I'll board out like Ring of Destruction and Regeki Break. I'll typically leave in the traps like Mirror Force and Torrential Tribute, because while they suck to draw under Jinzo, or Royal Decree, if you don't have them, they're incredibly valuable. And then for creatures, we've got Blade Knight, Asura Priest, double Kaiku, 2 Zombrai of the Darks, and 2 Death Wombats. So going over these, Kaiku is an anti-chaos card. Here, let's rearrange this because there's a bit of a glare right there. So Kaiku's an anti-chaos card, being a floodgate on legs, plus he just has good stats. Zombaira's also really good against Warrior because good stats and can beat over most things. Death Wombat is my concession to burn. I could probably do something like Mystic Walk and that might be better, but I have Death Wombat, so I'm giving him a shot. And then Blade Knight is for flip effects, or if I really just want to swap out a skilled Dark Magician for something, skilled White Magician for something that has better stats, and Asura Priest is pretty much just to counter Scapegoat. It can be decent against some other decks too. Anything that often has less than 1700, given that she can attack every creature on the board, she can just clear boards. You just need to bring her in the matchups where she's going to be the most effective. And then to round out the sideboard, we just got 3 spells: Lightning Vortex, Swords of Revealing Light, and Mind Control. Board wipe. This is good for stealing opponents' Chaos Monsters. So you can't tribute, but you can activate their effects. So theoretically, you could like pick up a Chaos Sorcerer, use Chaos Sorcerer's effect to banish one of their cards and swing for game, or you can mind control their Chaos Sorcerer, target itself, banish it, and then it's gone. You don't have to deal with it anymore. And swords is another concession to aggro or burn. I'm not sure how much I like swords. I haven't really had the opportunity to test it out, but from watching a lot of GOAT online, I've seen a number of people packing swords Revealing Light, and I have a nice LOB, so I figured I'd at least give it a shot and see what I think. Okay, now, since we haven't done this in a while, I'm going to go over the extra deck. There are a lot of cards here, as I said. If you're new to GOAT, you do not need this. We're going to go over what you need right now, and to start, if you're playing meta, which is pretty much why you need an extra deck, I would strongly recommend 3000 Eyes Restrict. They're about $1 a piece. They're really not expensive, but this is the thing you're going to be trying to go into the most, given it's probably the best fusion in this deck, and it's a floodgate. It buys you a lot of time. It's great. Okay, there are no 2s, which is kind of surprising. There's 1s, and then we're going to get into 3s. Dragoness and Flame Ghost. So you don't need 3 of each of these. And honestly, the reason why you play these ones in particular is Dragoness has the best stats of any level 3 fusion, and Flame Ghost is dark. So that's why you're playing those. And then the only 4s you need to get are 3 Darkfire Dragons. Thankfully, these are cheap. They're like $1 or something now. They used to be like 5 or 6 because they're the best 4-star in the with stats, and it's dark. So those are really good because there's a lot of 4-stars. So if you end up Snatch Stealing, you can Snatch Steal and then Metamorphosis into a Darkfire. Plus it gives you another dark in your graveyard. For 5s, we've got Dark Balter, negates effects, negates spells. Fiend Skull Dragon, negates effects, negates spells. And then these other ones that I have... Oh, one thing I should cover first. So, you don't need these if you're not playing 5s. So I have them, again, because I have a big extra deck. But also, it's good to have them if they're not expensive and you can afford them. Because when you Snatch Steal your opponent's monsters, it's good to be able to get rid of them and meta them off. And then the other 5s, I just have a Flame Swordsman, a Gilta, and an Ojamanite. These are just kind of because I have them. Ojamanite blocking boards, and he has 2500 ass, which isn't bad. Gilta has okay stats. It's mostly just because he's a light. And Flame Swordsman, I honestly just have because I got my hands on one. Alright, and we'll go... So, to talk about what specifically I would recommend a new person have, 3000 Ice, 3 Darkfire, at least 2, and then probably 3 in some combination of these. If you had to pick one, I'd probably go with Flame Ghost. I do like Dragoness having better stats, but the Dark is normally what you're going for, and the primary thing you're metaing off for these 2 is Sengen. Alright, and then going into the last 5, Reaper. This is one of those that you do not need, because he's kind of expensive. He's like $5 to $8. He's just another like Spirit Reaper discard effect. You do not need Reaper on the Nightmare, though. I just have one, so I thought I'd show you. Darkblade, I do think you should probably have at least one, though. He is a meta off of Chaos Sorcerer, and he just banishes cards from your opponent's graveyard when he connects, kind of like Haiku. So it helps you get rid of monsters out of their graveyard so you can win the grind game and not let them get into their chaos monsters. The last 6s, Dark Flare Knight, Quagga Hercules, Ojama King, Roaring Ocean Stake, and Ryu Shinji. So you do not need Dark Flare, Hercules, or Ojama King, or Ocean Snake. I would recommend Ryu Shinji. These 2, honestly, I just have because I do. Ojama King can be nice because he just buys you time and blocks some of your opponent's zones. And Roaring Ocean Snake is weirdly niche. So the reason why you run this card is if your opponent has a Tribe Infecting Virus that you can't get rid of and you want to meta, if you can get into a Roaring Ocean Snake, they can't kill Roaring Ocean Snake without killing their own tribe since they share the same type. So, as I said, really niche. But, you know, I like GOAT enough that I'm willing to invest in the extra deck, and yeah. then in the 7s, and these are the ones that I don't even really need to run because I almost have no way to get into any of these, except for the ones we'll cover. 3 Last Warrior from Another Planet, 2 King Dragon, Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon, Gatlin Dragon, and Master of Oz. So these ones I can never really go into because I don't play a 7, but they are good, especially since this is a Floodgate. He just has decent stats, and this is a light. Gatling Dragon is the only thing you can meta a Blackluster Soldier into, so theoretically if your opponent was at 26 or under, but they had a blocker and you didn't want to attack for some reason, you can Chaos Sorcerer, banish a target, and then hit with Gatlin Dragon. That's the nice part. And then Master of Oz is just the biggest fusion. I don't think you can meta into him normally, but I could steal an opponent's Master of Oz and meta into my own Master of Oz. It's never come up, but again, like, given that you're not limited in size on GOAT, if you really like it, I'd eventually consider upgrading to something like this. You only have to buy it once. I think the most expensive single card in here is Gatlin Dragon at like $10. Most of these are only a couple bucks a piece, especially with the 25th anniversary stuff getting reprinted. But yeah, that's my GOAT deck. I really like this format a lot. It feels like your choices matter a little more sometimes, because the 1-for-1 and the 2-for-1 trades seem a lot more meaningful in GOAT than they do in Advanced a lot of the time, or at least that's my personal opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments if you think I'm wrong. It helps our algorithm, so you may as well. Yeah, and that's pretty much it for this. I hope you guys liked this profile. It's a little longer than our normal. Actually, it's a lot longer than our normal ones. But you know, we haven't really covered GOAT in a month or two, and the fusion deck is important to go over because I remember when I was getting into GOAT, I didn't know what these things were for or what I should have or what I actually need, because everyone would just say, oh, you run all the fusions, which isn't really a good answer, because if you're getting into it, it's not like you want to drop $80 on a fusion deck to learn that you don't really want to play a fusion or a meta deck anyway. But yeah, that'll be it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Have a good one.